Your grandmother fed a family of 6 on what you spend at Pret in a single lunch break. And she did not need a Thermomix, a meal prep subscription, or 3 hours on a Sunday afternoon. She needed 10 minutes, a few cheap ingredients, and knowledge that has been quietly disappearing from British kitchens for the last 50 years. Number 18 on this list costs less than £1 and was the secret weapon of every miner's wife from Durham to Merthyr Tydfil. Number 7 was so fast that factory workers made it between shifts. And number 1, the dish that tops this entire list, uses an ingredient you probably already have in the back of your cupboard and nobody has told you what to do with it. These are not fancy recipes dressed up as budget meals. These are the real dinners that kept Britain running when money was tight and time was shorter. Supermarkets do not want you to know most of these because if you did, you would walk straight past the ready meal aisle and never look back. Before we begin, subscribe and hit that bell, because this list is going to change the way you eat on a Tuesday night. Let us count down 25 vintage British dinners you can make in 10 minutes on a budget. Number 25, sardines on toast. This was the original fast food in Britain, and it cost almost nothing. Your nan would open a tin of sardines, mash them with a fork, add a squeeze of lemon and a crack of black pepper, then pile the lot onto thick slices of toast under the grill. The fish would bubble and crisp at the edges, the bread would turn golden underneath, and the whole thing was on the table before the kettle had finished boiling. A tin of sardines cost about 4p in the 1950s. Today you can still get them for 50p at Aldi. That is dinner for 2, with protein, omega-3, and calcium from the bones you barely notice. The Ministry of Food pushed tinned fish hard during rationing, printing recipe cards that went into every household. Sardines on toast was the one that stuck because it worked. No pan to wash, no oven to heat, just a grill, a fork, and 5 minutes. Children who grew up on this can still smell the oily, salty tang of sardines browning under the flame. It was not glamorous, but it was honest, and it filled you up when nothing else would. Number 24, egg and chips. The backbone of the British midweek tea. Your mum could have this on the table in under 10 minutes if she had leftover boiled potatoes sliced and fried, or she kept a bag of frozen chips in the freezer. 2 eggs cracked into a hot pan with a knob of butter, fried until the whites set and the yolk stayed runny. Chips piled beside them. A splash of HP sauce. That was it. A meal that cost less than a shilling in 1960 and costs barely £1 today. The trick your grandmother knew was to fry the eggs in the same fat as the chips. The potato starch in that oil gave the egg whites a lacy, crispy edge that a clean pan never could. Children fought over who got the most chips. Fathers dipped their bread in the yolk, and nobody called it a recipe because it was simply what you did when the cupboard was bare and the clock was against you. Egg and chips asked nothing of you and gave everything back. Number 23, beans on toast with cheese. Before beans on toast became a joke about British cooking, it was a genuinely brilliant 10-minute dinner. Your nan heated a tin of Heinz beans, buttered 2 thick slices of bread, poured the beans over, and grated a handful of cheddar on top. Some mothers slid the plate under the grill for a minute to melt the cheese into a bubbling orange blanket. A tin of beans cost about 6p in 1958. The whole meal came in under a shilling. The protein from the beans, the calcium from the cheese, the energy from the bread. It was nutritionally complete without anyone ever using that phrase. Factory workers ate this before night shifts. Children ate it after school. It was the meal that said, "I have not got time, but I have got you fed," and it tasted like home. Number 22. Welsh rarebit. Do not call it cheese on toast. Welsh rarebit was the elevated version your grandmother made when she wanted something that felt like effort but took no time at all. She would grate strong cheddar into a saucepan, add a splash of milk, a teaspoon of mustard, a shake of Worcestershire sauce, and stir over low heat until it became a thick, glossy sauce. Spooned over toast and grilled until it puffed and browned in dark, golden patches. The mustard cut through the richness. The Worcestershire gave it depth. The whole thing took 7 minutes and tasted like something from a proper supper club. In the 1950s, Welsh rarebit was a staple of high tea, served alongside pickled onions and a pot of strong tea. A block of cheddar cost about 1 6, and it stretched across several meals. This was the dish that proved British cooking could be fast, cheap, and genuinely delicious all at once. Number 21. Corned beef and pickle sandwich, fried. Your grandmother took the humble corned beef sandwich and turned it into something extraordinary by frying it. 2 slices of bread, a thick layer of corned beef from the tin, a generous smear of Branston pickle pressed together and fried in butter until both sides turned golden and crunchy. The filling melted slightly, the pickle went warm and sweet, and the bread developed a crust like a French croque monsieur, though nobody would have called it that. A tin of corned beef cost about 1 3 in 1955 and fed the family across 3 meals. This fried version was the treat. The meal that turned leftovers into something children actually asked for. 5 minutes in the pan. No oven, no grill. Just the sound of bread sizzling in butter and the smell of warm pickle drifting through the kitchen. Number 20. Pilchard fish cakes. Your mum could stretch a single tin of pilchards into 4 generous fish cakes using cold mashed potato left over from yesterday's tea. Drain the tin, mash the fish with the potato, add a beaten egg and a pinch of salt, shape into patties, and fry in a little oil until golden on both sides. 8 minutes, start to finish. A tin of pilchards cost about 7 pence in 1960. The leftover potato was free. Served with a squeeze of ketchup and some bread and butter, this was a full meal that cost almost nothing. Women's Institute notebooks are full of variations. Some added chopped parsley. Others rolled the cakes in breadcrumbs for extra crunch. The fish cakes held together beautifully because the starch in the potato acted as a natural binder. No fancy equipment, no food processor, just a fork, a frying pan, and the knowledge that nothing in the larder should ever go to waste. Number 19. Dippy eggs and soldiers. The meal every British child remembers. Your mum soft-boiled an egg for exactly 4 minutes, placed it in a ceramic egg cup, sliced the top off with a knife, and served it with fingers of buttered toast for dipping. The yolk had to be runny. That was non-negotiable. Children dunked their soldiers into the warm golden center, pulling them out dripping with yolk, while mothers sipped tea and watched the clock. An egg cost about 2 pence in 1955. 2 slices of bread, a scrape of butter. The whole meal came to less than 6 pence per child. But it was not just cheap. It was ritual. The tap of the spoon on the shell, the careful decapitation, the first dip. Dippy eggs taught children to eat with patience and joy. It was the 10-minute dinner that doubled as a lesson in being British. Number 18. Bread and dripping with onion. This is the one that costs less than £1 and sustained entire mining communities. Your grandmother saved the dripping from Sunday's roast, and on a weeknight when money was gone and payday was still 2 days off, she would spread that golden fat thick on fresh bread. But here is the trick that elevated it. She would slice a raw onion paper thin, lay it over the dripping, and press it down with a sprinkle of salt. The sweetness of the onion against the rich, meaty fat. The crunch against the soft bread. It was a flavor combination that no ready meal has ever matched. Bread cost 11 pence for a £2 loaf. The dripping was free. The onion, a penny at most. This was the meal that said we have nothing, but we will eat well regardless. And every person who grew up on it will tell you the same thing. It tasted better than anything they have eaten since. First pattern break. Here is something the supermarkets will never tell you. The fastest meals in British history were not invented by food scientists in laboratories or marketing teams in boardrooms. They were invented by women who had 15 minutes between hanging the washing and collecting the children from school. Every trick on this list was born from pressure, not leisure. And that pressure created genius that no test kitchen has ever matched. Number 17. Cheese and onion potato. Your mum could bake a potato in the microwave in 8 minutes, split it open, and pile it with grated cheddar and spring onions. But the vintage version used leftover boiled potatoes, sliced thick, fried in butter with onions until golden, then topped with cheese and flashed under the grill. The cheese melted into the crispy potato. The onions went sweet and caramelized. The whole thing cost pennies and tasted like Sunday lunch condensed into a single plate. Potatoes were the cheapest vegetable in post-war Britain, 6 to 8 per person per week, according to the National Food Survey. Your grandmother could make 30 different meals from a sack of potatoes, and this was one of the fastest. Number 16. Tomato soup with toast fingers. A tin of Heinz tomato soup heated in a saucepan, served in a deep bowl with strips of buttered toast arranged around the rim for dunking. It sounds too simple to be a proper dinner, but in the 1950s and 60s, this was a perfectly acceptable midweek tea. The soup was thick and sweet. The toast soaked up every drop. A tin cost about 7 pence and served 2 adults or 3 children comfortably. Some mothers stirred in a spoonful of cream or a knob of butter to make it richer. Others floated grated cheese on top. The ritual was always the same: the pop of the tin opening, the slow pour into the pan, the gentle stir as it heated. Children knew that sound meant supper was 5 minutes away. Tomato soup and toast was the meal that bridged the gap between proper cooking and giving up entirely. And it did so with dignity. Number 15. Fried bread and bacon. 2 ingredients. 5 minutes. Your grandmother heated a frying pan, laid in rashers of back bacon, cooked them until the fat rendered and the edges crisped, then fried thick slices of bread in the bacon fat until golden and saturated. The bread soaked up every drop of flavor. The bacon draped across the top, salty and smoky. Served with a mug of strong tea, this was the midweek dinner that tasted like a Sunday morning. A pound of bacon cost about 2 shillings in 1955. 4 rashers and 2 slices of bread fed 1 adult completely. The Ministry of Food had opinions about bacon fat, most of them positive, recommending it be saved and reused. Your grandmother did not need telling. She had been doing it since the war. Number 14. Chip butty. The chip butty needs no introduction to a British audience, but it deserves its place on this list because it was the ultimate emergency dinner. Frozen chips fried or grilled for 8 minutes. 2 slices of soft white bread, buttered thick. Chips piled in the middle, pressed down until the butter melted and the bread went slightly translucent with heat. Salt and vinegar. That was the whole recipe. In the north, this was not a snack. This was tea. Whole families ate chip butties on Friday nights when the chippy queue was too long or the budget would not stretch. A bag of frozen chips cost about 6 pence in the 1960s. A loaf of bread, 11 pence. You could feed 4 children for less than 2 shillings. The chip butty was democracy on a plate. Rich or poor, north or south, everyone understood it. Number 13. Scrambled eggs on toast. Your grandmother made scrambled eggs with 2 ingredients: eggs and butter, no milk, no cream. She cracked the eggs into a cold pan with a generous knob of butter, then stirred slowly over low heat, pulling the pan on and off the flame until soft curds formed. The whole process took 3 minutes. Piled onto hot toast, it was creamy, rich, and deeply satisfying. Eggs cost about 2 shillings a dozen in the mid-1950s. 3 eggs per person made a substantial meal. The secret was patience. Low heat and constant stirring. Modern recipes overcomplicate this with cream and herbs, but your grandmother's version, the one with just eggs and butter, produced a texture that Gordon Ramsay would later claim to have perfected on television, 60 years after every housewife in Britain already knew. Number 12. Cheese and pickle toasty. 2 slices of bread, a thick layer of strong cheddar, a generous spread of Branston pickle, pressed together and fried in butter or done under the grill. The cheese melted and pulled in strings. The pickle went warm and tangy. The bread crisped on the outside and stayed soft in the middle. This took 6 minutes and cost almost nothing. A jar of Branston lasted weeks. The cheese was bought in blocks and grated as needed. In the 1960s, the cheese and pickle combination became so embedded in British culture that it defined the ploughman's lunch. But as a hot toastie made at home in minutes, It was the dinner that nobody admitted to because it felt too easy to count. Second pattern break. Here is what the food industry does not want you to understand. Speed and cheapness used to mean skill, not shame. Your grandmother could produce a hot meal in under 10 minutes, not because she was cutting corners, but because she had cooked 10,000 meals before that one. She knew exactly how long an egg took. She knew the precise moment to flip the bread. She knew that a sharp knife and a hot pan were worth more than any gadget. We have been taught to believe that fast and cheap means low quality. That is a lie sold to us by companies charging £4 for a microwave lasagna that your grandmother would have been embarrassed to serve. Number 11. Mushrooms on toast. Your grandmother fried sliced mushrooms in butter with a pinch of salt until they released their liquid and turned dark and glossy. Spooned over thick toast, they made a meal that was earthy, rich, and deeply satisfying. Some mothers added a splash of cream or a grind of pepper. Others scattered parsley from the garden. A pound of mushrooms cost about sixpence in 1960. 2 slices of toast and a knob of butter brought the total to under a shilling. Mushrooms on toast was the vegetarian dinner before anyone used that word. It was simply what you made when there was no meat and you wanted something that still felt like a proper tea. Number 10. Tinned mackerel pâté on toast. Your mum would drain a tin of mackerel, mash it with a fork, stir in a squeeze of lemon juice and a spoonful of cream cheese or butter, then spread it thick on hot toast. The whole thing took 4 minutes. The pâté was smoky, rich, and tasted like something from a fishmonger's counter. A tin of mackerel cost pennies. Served with sliced cucumber and a cup of tea, this was the dinner that proved tinned fish was not a compromise. It was a strategy. Number 9. Eggy bread. The British answer to French toast, and faster. Your mum beat 2 eggs in a shallow dish, dipped slices of bread into the mixture until soaked, then fried them in butter until golden on both sides. Served with ketchup for a savory tea or sugar and lemon for a sweet one. Children loved eggy bread because it felt like a treat. Parents loved it because it used 2 eggs and 2 slices of bread to feed a child completely. The whole process took 5 minutes. Stale bread worked even better than fresh because it absorbed the egg without falling apart. This was the meal that turned the bread your grandmother refused to waste into something everyone fought over. Number 8. Cheese omelette. 3 eggs, a handful of grated cheddar, a knob of butter, and 3 minutes. Your grandmother beat the eggs, poured them into a hot buttered pan, scattered the cheese across the top, and folded the omelette in half as the edges set. Served with bread and butter and a few slices of tomato, this was a complete dinner that cost less than a shilling. The trick was a screaming hot pan and the courage to fold before the center looked fully cooked. The residual heat finished the job, leaving the inside creamy and the cheese melted. French chefs wrote entire books about omelette technique. Your grandmother just did it, night after night, without thinking twice. Number 7. Tinned spaghetti on toast. Heinz spaghetti hoops, or tinned spaghetti heated in a saucepan and poured over buttered toast. This was the dinner that factory workers made between shifts, that children made for themselves when mum was out, and that nobody ever wrote down because it did not need a recipe. A tin cost about sixpence. It was hot, it was filling, and it was ready in the time it took to toast the bread. Great cheese over the top, and you had something that felt almost indulgent. Millions of tins were sold every week in the 1960s. Heinz knew exactly what they had. An entire generation's emergency dinner waiting in the cupboard. Number 6. Peas pudding on toast. Leftover peas pudding, that thick golden paste of boiled split peas, spread on toast and grilled until the edges crisped. In the Northeast, this was a meal in its own right. The pudding was already cooked, already seasoned, and it spread like butter when warm. A scoop from the market stall cost pennies. On toast, it became a filling, protein-rich dinner in under 5 minutes. The taste was earthy and comforting, somewhere between hummus and mashed potato, but entirely its own thing. Children in Tyneside grew up eating this the way Southern children ate jam sandwiches. It was ordinary, unremarkable, and absolutely essential. Number 5. Bubble and squeak. Monday's leftovers never tasted better than when your grandmother mashed cold potatoes and cabbage together, shaped the mixture into patties, and fried them in dripping until the outside turned dark and crispy. 7 minutes from fridge to plate. The leftovers were free, the dripping was free. The only cost was the gas under the pan. Served with a fried egg on top or a splash of brown sauce, bubble and squeak turned waste into a meal that fathers actually looked forward to. The crispy edges were the prize. The soft, savory center was the comfort. And the knowledge that not a scrap of Sunday's dinner had been wasted was the quiet satisfaction that held the whole thing together. Number 4. Cheese on toast with Worcestershire sauce. Simplicity perfected. Your grandmother grated cheddar onto bread, shook Worcestershire sauce over the top in a zigzag pattern, and grilled it until the cheese bubbled and browned in dark, savory patches. The Worcestershire sauce caramelized into the cheese, creating an umami depth that plain cheese on toast could never match. 3 minutes under the grill. Cost barely anything. This was the dinner that everybody made, but nobody wrote about because it seemed too simple to deserve attention. But that combination of sharp cheddar, tangy fermented sauce, and crispy toast edges was one of the great flavor achievements of British home cooking. Your grandmother knew it instinctively. Food writers are only just catching up. Number 3. Toast and pâté. Your grandmother kept a pot of meat paste or liver pâté in the cupboard at all times. Shippams, most likely. Spread thick on hot toast with a slice of tomato or a few rings of raw onion, it became a 10-minute dinner that tasted rich and substantial. A pot cost about 6pence and lasted 3 or 4 meals. The paste was concentrated, salty, and intensely savory. It was the original spread, the ancestor of every artisan pâté now sold at farmers' markets for £5 a jar. Your grandmother paid pennies. She ate better, and she was done in 5 minutes. Number 2. Fried egg sandwich. 2 eggs fried in butter, placed between 2 slices of soft white bread, pressed down until the yolk burst and soaked into the crumb. Salt, pepper, and a squeeze of brown sauce. That was the entire recipe. 5 minutes. Cost virtually nothing. But the fried egg sandwich was more than a meal. It was the answer to every question the British kitchen ever asked. What is for tea? No idea. Fried egg sandwich. What can I make with nothing? Fried egg sandwich. What do you want at midnight when everything else is closed? Fried egg sandwich. It was the great equalizer. The meal that transcended class and region, and it was perfect every single time. And number 1. Dripping toast with salt. The single cheapest, fastest, most satisfying vintage British dinner ever conceived. Your grandmother took the dripping jar, the one sitting beside the stove that contained the rendered fat from every roast she had ever made, and spread a thick layer onto hot toast, a pinch of flaky salt on top. That was it. The dripping melted into the bread, carrying with it the concentrated flavor of a dozen Sunday dinners. Beef, lamb, pork, each layer in that jar added depth. The toast went slightly translucent, rich and glistening. The salt made it sing. Cost nothing. The dripping was saved, not bought. The bread cost pennies. The salt was already there. Time, 3 minutes. This was the meal that sustained Britain through wars, depressions, strikes, and every hard winter that came before central heating. It was the meal your grandmother made when the cupboard was bare and the world outside was cold. And it was the meal that food companies spent decades trying to make you forget, because if you remembered how good dripping toast tasted, you would never buy their spread again. Here is my challenge to you. Make one of these this week. Not the complicated one. Not the one that requires a trip to the shops. The one you can make right now with what is already in your kitchen. Fry an egg. Make cheese on toast with Worcestershire sauce. Spread dripping on bread if you have it. Then come back and tell me it was not one of the best things you have eaten in months. Tell me in the comments which one you are trying first. I want to know if dripping toast beats the fried egg sandwich. I want to know if anyone still has a nan who makes bubble and squeak on Mondays. Because these meals were never about being poor. They were about being clever, and it is time we remembered that.